Well, we have it, guys. Spring has definitely sprung. It was about 9 Celsius on my dashboard of my car when I drove in. The birds know it too. They're singing. It's just absolutely incredible up here at the allotment garden. Just a stunning day. Now, at home, I've been doing a lot of work. So you'll know from the last video that I put in the L-shaped bed on the patio. We've been clearing the front garden. I've ordered wood for the raised beds in the back, so I'm waiting for that to arrive. That's going to be quite a big project. And I've got quite a few seeds on the go as well. So I usually tend to wait for the first day of spring or just after St. Patrick's Day to put my potatoes in. And then after that, a lot of my seeds start getting sown. There are exceptions to the rule, of course. So the tomatoes, eggplants, so aubergines, I sowed those earlier on in February, and those will be going out into the greenhouse. But now is when things start to get really crazy. So today what I'd like to do is have a walk around my allotment site, and I'm going to kind of think aloud to myself and to you as to what I want to do with each bed. And then we can also have a look to see what's growing. This bottommost bed is where I had the potatoes last year. This year, so to start it off, this will be filled with cabbage. And then when that's harvested in midsummer, I'm going to put another crop in. I've not yet decided what. I'll decide closer to the time. Up here, I have tidied this bed. There's purple sprouting broccoli, which I've already started picking. I started growing this almost a year ago. And it's one of those crops that is really worth their space because you get crops now in this kind of hungry time in the garden. And it's absolutely delicious and quite expensive if you buy it in shops. And this is a variety called claret or claret. And I picked up those seeds at a gardening event last year, or the year before actually. So totally free crop. All it took was my investment of time and patience. I got my potatoes in last week, and there's 3 rows here, 2 rows of early and first early, and they are Pentland Javelin. And then I've also done a row of the Apache, the second early Apache potatoes that I got from Thompson and Morgan this year. So those are the really wild looking potatoes. They're kind of a 2-tone variety. And so the first 2 rows will be harvested first, and then the second earlies after that. And I think there is some confusion when planting potatoes, and you really just plant them all at the same time. The varieties, so first early, second early, and main crop, just indicate when they're ready to be harvested. The strawberry bed will remain the strawberry bed. And if you recall, I removed the strawberries that were in the center, so I'll be planting new plants this year, and I've got 3 new varieties. More on that in another video. Over there, those are the oldest strawberries in the patch. This is the 3rd year now, so they'll be coming out after this season. And I have got a mixture of an unnamed red variety and pine berries, which are the white ones in that row. Now down here is where I planted the Mara des Bois strawberries last year. And let's see if we can see any signs of life. Oh yes, some green leaves. They've done just fine with just a simple mulch of composted manure, and they're coming back up. And what I really liked about these strawberries, and the reason that I'll be continuing to grow them, is that not only are the fruits really delicious, but I got 2 crops out of them last year. So they had the ordinary June crop, and then later on in the summer there was a second one. I love perennial vegetables, especially fruit. And this is the raspberry patch. Nothing really required to keep it up other than a yearly mulch, some staking, and pruning in the winter. These are an autumn fruiting varieties, so they fruit in late summer, early autumn, and they fruit on new wood, so I take them down almost to the ground each year. Love raspberries. This little patch, although it isn't the most productive, is actually my favorite here on the plot, and I have various types of perennial alliums, so onion family, Astrantia, which is not an edible flower as far as I am aware, but it's just a really pretty pincushion type flower that I love. And next to it, this is green alkanet, the bane of some gardeners, and I have deliberately planted it here because bees love it. And that's the parent plant over there. So you can see how far it does spread. The Egyptian walking onions are well on their way as well. They're here. And I've just noticed something quite cute. So when I harvested last year, I set a few of the bulbs up here on this piece of wood, and it looks like some of them fell in the crack between the bark and the wood, and they're growing now. Look at them. Every year around Valentine's Day, frogs spawn in my little pond. And this year I could tell that there were 2 clumps of frog spawn, so frog eggs. And there are so many tadpoles in the pond now. Let's have a closer look. There's a lot of pondweed in there, which I'm not going to remove because they're going to be feeding on it. And it also gives them some protection from birds who might be coming down here and having a little snack. I've been playing with the idea of doing something different with this bed, and I will be doing something, but I'm not quite sure what. At first I thought maybe I would clear it, move the herbs to another part of the garden, and use this for growing brassicas in this year, but I think that I want to keep this at least half a herb garden. So my idea right now, which is subject to change, is to move the blackcurrant sage and the mints and move maybe some of them over to the center there, and then use this half over here for growing other vegetables in this year. We'll see. The chard is still going strong in this bed, and there's various colors. So we've got ruby chard, we've got some yellow stemmed. This is the more traditional Swiss chard. And there's one that's more magenta down there as well. And I also have some oriental spinach in this bed. And this is providing quite a lot of greens at the moment, but it will eventually go to seed, and I will clear these out. And the plan for this bed is cabbages. This little strip was an afterthought when I put it in. I had some soft fruit that needed a new home, and so I just kind of dug them in here, and it was actually turned out to be quite a good idea because they have provided a mini windbreak to the other plants on this side of the allotment. And also in between all the currants, I've planted dahlias that I grew from seed last year, and I'm growing more from seed this year for the home garden. And I've just left them in. This is the remainder of the stems popping up, and it is relatively mild here on the Isle of Man, so I can leave them in the ground and be fairly confident that they will come back up the next year. In places that are a bit colder, you do need to take the tubers up. They're relatively shallow and they can freeze, and then you can lose your dahlias. My garden looks pretty neat and tidy right now, but just to keep it real, I want to show you a work in progress. So this is part of my garden as well. So it goes to, let's see here, the path. The path belongs to me as well, so over there. And I've got this patch covered in landscaping fabric because it is quite weedy and it's got bindweed on it. And then down there at the bottom, I've been piling up lots of rubbish and waste. And this has been on my to-do list for a couple of weeks now, and I will tackle it. And that's my compost from last year in the pallet composter. And there's some good compost down at the bottom. It's all broken down. And then this pile here, this is all weeds and turf that I dug out when I built that thing last year. It's just been sitting there. And then this is a lot of waste that I've been collecting from the plot. And what I'll be doing with this is taking the pallets down, and that's the fabulous thing about a pallet composter, is that they're just tied together with string, you can see here. And then what I'll be doing is making it double the size this year with this. So that's a gigantic pallet there. That'll be the back side, and then I'll have 2 composting bays essentially. In a recent video, I showed you that I put this bin over my earlier sprouting rhubarb. Let's have a look to see how things are progressing. So the idea here is that by growing it under a bin or some other type of container, you can have custom rhubarb forcers that are quite expensive, made out of terracotta. The rhubarb underneath will be tender and pink and perfect for the first crumbles of the year. So I'm going to be taking some of this home and making a rhubarb crumble for tonight's dinner. Well, dessert. Things are starting to sprout in the allotment garden, but there's a lot of bare ground. So in the weeks to come, I'll be sowing a lot of seeds and also putting a little bit more mulch down on the soil and preparing to fill those beds with lots of delicious edibles. Now, as far as next week's video is concerned, I'm thinking about actually talking about how I started my plot, because over on Instagram and on lots of comments that I've had here on YouTube, people have been basically praising my plot, but I really want to show how it all began, because it didn't look like this. And I think that anyone could start off with a really weedy plot and turn it into something beautiful. And I just want to share how I went about doing that. So if you think that that is something that you would find helpful, let me know as a comment down below. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed walking around the allotment with me and kind of thinking aloud as to what I'm going to be doing in each bed this year. If you've got any ideas or suggestions, leave them down as a comment below as well. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time here on Lovely Greens. Bye for now.